Hello, welcome people of YouTube. So we're going to be looking at the Korg Gadget app today. It's the first video I've done on this one. The reason I'm doing this one is Korg have just released the version 2 of the app, which I kind of missed when it came out actually. I knew it was on the way, I'd read about it, and suddenly I went on the app the other day and thought, oh, it looks different and there's some new stuff on there. And the one I'm going to concentrate on mostly for this video is the new MIDI output gadget, which will enable you to control all your synths, all kind of like your iOS synths within the iPad, but also to control external hardware as well, which is a very cool feature. And it kind of it kind of bit of a game changer, I think, for this app. It's a brilliant app anyway. If you've already got an iPad, it's worth getting the app, because it costs, I think it's $19.99. I think that's the same in dollars and in UK pounds. I know it's certainly £19.99. And you're getting literally the equivalent of thousands and thousands of pounds worth of little synths and gadgets and so on. I tend to use this as, I probably don't use it as much as I should do really, because it is so good. But I'll just use it if I'm out and about and I get a song idea and I've got the iPad with me, because I usually go everywhere with the iPad. It's great just for getting some ideas down when inspiration strikes. I mean, you can write a whole song in it. It's basically like a DAW in an iPad. But what I tend to do is I'll get song ideas down, a few little basic arrangements, and then you can export that either as WAV files, or we just go up on the export options here. You can export, you can upload it to Gadget Cloud and iTunes and Dropbox and whatever, but you can also export as a standard MIDI file or as an Ableton Live project, where it will kind of bounce everything down into WAV files, but make it sort of in an Ableton Live project. You can just drag it straight into your as a new project into Ableton. So very, very cool. But I'm not going to get too involved with that. I'm jabbering on already. Right, so let's start with we're going to go with a completely new project, and the kind of cool thing that this does is it gives you some random words as a song title. And if you're ever stuck for song titles, it does come up with some quite good ones. Some of them are a little bit weird. For example, this one's come up as Funky Pool. So my new song, if you ever see a track release called Funky Pool, you'll know where I got the song idea from. Very quick overview. Obviously, we've got all these gadgets. These all come with the update. So the version 2 update is free. You don't need to pay anything else if you've already bought it. A very nice, cool addition is I've actually got the iMS20 app, and you get an MS20 version of a gadget version of the MS20 or the iMS20 app, which is very nice. That came in just like as a free thing. So all of these are all free down to there. Okay, then there's extra ones that you can buy, which are between like 7 and 10 quid each. But there's more than enough to keep you going. And if people are interested and they want a bit more information about all the different gadgets, I will happily do a series of videos on each of the gadgets, so you can know a little bit more about them. But the one we're concentrating on today is this one, the Type A. I don't know, I can't even pronounce it. I'm going to call it the MIDI out control module, because I am. Right. So if we just click on that and load it in. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'll show you how you can control your iOS synths. Most of the time it works okay. I have a few issues. I've got a few synths on here. I've got the Model D. It kind of seems to work okay with that. I've got the Model 15 as well, the 2 Moog apps. This DRC app kind of works okay. The one I do have biggest issues with is Sunriser, all right, which is a great synth and I'd use that a lot, but I just cannot get it to work with this. Don't know why. I've tried absolutely everything. So if anyone's got any ideas as to why, it may just not be compatible. That just might be the thing. So I'm going to, just for the purpose of this, try and keep it as simple as possible. We're just going to control one synth. You can have as many instances of different synths and the MIDI output thing as your iPad can handle. So I'm just going to do it with one for now. So we're going to use this string patch. Now, bit of sort of housekeeping things you've got to make sure you set up in your apps first of all. The most important one is that you've got background audio turned on, which most apps now come with that. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in your settings. For example, on this one, I've got configuration. You can see you've got background audio. So got to make sure that's highlighted to turn that on. The other thing you want to check as well is your MIDI settings. So you've got to make sure that the settings in your synth are set to receive input from Gadget. You can see is that one there. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, it should be all right. And also make a note of the channel that you're on, because this one is set now at channel 1 and it's going to get an input from the Gadget. You can output to Gadget as well. I'm not going to worry about anything else. I'll come back to the CC messages in a bit. Right, so let's go back to Gadget. Let's get rid of Netflix. We'll open up Gadget. Right, so on the MIDI output module, we're going to click on here. At the moment, it's not set to any output. So we're going to click on the output, and here you will have your options as to where you can output your MIDI to, which I'm not sure actually if you can see. Let me just bring that up a little bit there. Hopefully you can see it now. Okay, so these are the various things where we can output to. What we're going to do is just choose the Model 15. It often comes with an audio bus MIDI one, which for some reason doesn't seem to work. So we're just going to choose the Model 15 and make sure we're on, and we are on channel 1. Okay, hopefully you can just see that. So let's just get that positioned back where it was. So if we now open up the actual Gadget itself, looks like all the other gadgets. So now when I'm playing the keyboard on here, that is playing the Model 15. So you've got all the usual sort of things you get with all your other gadgets. You've got the scale settings down here, so you can have it chromatic or the different scale settings. Obviously, you've got your octaves down here. So a few cool things is you've got an arpeggiator, so you can use an arp on here to control the synth. So it's all kind of coming from within the app. And then basically along here, you've got 8 knobs that you can assign to control the knobs or the dials on your app. It's just really a case of making sure you know the CC number, the MIDI CC number for each control. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on that in a second. So the ARP can be kind of like free running, or you can synchronize it to the beat, the BPM. Another very cool thing, which we're going to have a look at in more detail in a second, is we've got an LFO here. So we've got an extra LFO over and above the LFO that might be on the synth that you're using. Also very cool, we've got an XY pad. So we can now add XY pads to all your synths, whether they've got them or not. And again, you've got 2 options. You've got on the X-axis, you can choose whichever CC number you want, and again on the Y-axis. We've got a settings thing here, which is basically where you can choose your channels and outputs from within the gadget itself. And there's also some extra LFO stuff over on that side. And there's also some, which is quite useful, some presets for controlling external hardware, which I'm going to come on to later on in this video. Obviously, it's made by Korg, so they've just basically mapped Korg stuff. So you've got the Minilog and the Prolog and the Volcas. I think all the Volcas are in there, and the Electribes and so on. But obviously, you can make your own and save those in the user presets. But I'll come on to those a little bit more when I look at controlling some hardware. So that's basically how you kind of set it up to control an internal synth. So let's just have a quick look at the LFO. So what we'll do is we'll get the LFO to control. Let's go over to the Model 15 again. And we're going to get it to control the cutoff frequency. So we'll try and... Okay, so we're going to get the LFO to basically do that, which kind of sounds like the clangers. Yeah, I'm showing my age now. Anybody kind of, I don't know, over the age of 40 will know what I mean when I'm talking about the clangers. Right, so if we go back into settings, what we need to do is find out or map the CC number for that dial. So if I go on, let me just show you what I did there. So we're going on settings, and then down here we're going on map CCs. And again, most iOS synths are going to have this facility in here somewhere. And then all of these we can map. This is obviously, usually this is for mapping to an external controller, but you can assign CC numbers to any of the controls. So this one I've got, you can, if you double tap on it, you can choose whatever CC number you want to assign to that dial. Just double tap on it and that'll come up. So I've got this one set to MIDI CC1. You can see the what is the resonance would be MIDI CC22, and this one is on 23. So, but we're going to concentrate on MIDI CC1. So if we go back over to Gadget, and then on the LFO, I'm just going to turn that on. And we're going to choose down here our CC number. So if we go to CC1, that will now hopefully you can hear that's now, we're using the triangle waveform. It's now kind of turning the dial up on the cutoff frequency. Now, if you can see, that is now moving on its own, right? Because it's just receiving that information from the LFO in the gadget. So, oh, wrong one. So if we turn the intensity up and then go back, so if we turn that up to full, you will see, because before the dial was only going halfway, you can see it's now going all the way up and then back round again. Okay, which is going to give us some crazy sound. Ooh. Okay, and then we've got speed. Now again, we can sync that to our BPM. If we turn that off, it will just be free running. Okay, or we can sync it to the BPM. And we've got different LFO shapes. We've got a triangle, we've got a saw down. Like that, we've got a saw up. We've got square, and we've got sample and hold, which is okay. Yeah, right, shut up. Which is now going crazy. So I think that's a really, really great feature. We've also got, like, say, the XY pads in here. So if let's assign MIDI CC1 to, you can obviously, you've got op speed and LFO speed we can put in here as well. If we do CC1 onto there, we'll turn the LFO off for now. Okay, we'll go over just to the Model 15 again. Let me just have a look. So we're going to do MIDI CC21 and we'll do the resonance on the other axis. So we just click on that, choose CC21, and we've now got resonance on the vertical axis and cutoff on the horizontal axis. And the way the XY pad works is as soon as you take your finger off, it kind of what's the word I want? Goes back to there's a better word to it than that, but I want to say it goes back to its kind of original settings. So very, very cool. And so that's for controlling all your internal stuff. Because before I was using, I used ModStep a bit, which is a very, very cool app, but not as simple to use as this. And obviously with this, you can control all your synths from in here, and also then have gadget things in here as well. And you can have, like I say, as many instances of this as you wish, basically as much as your iPad can handle. So if you want to use 2 or 3 external synths with that, that's fine. You just set them to different MIDI channels. Obviously, you can then put your other gadgets in. So I don't know, let's just get a quick drum beat going. We'll just stick the London drum machine in. Okay, so you can obviously have the internal gadgets, and then over on here, we can then obviously play, or obviously we can program notes in here. So let's put okay, probably not the best notes to illustrate that, but there you go. Obviously we could I can't talk today. You can also record any of these knob movements as automation. So you just hit record. I'm going to do it on the XY pad. Okay, so you can see, let's drag that up. It's just recorded that automation I've got in here, and you can record any of them, and you can also write them in as well, like that. The only thing I find with this is I don't think you can do like a smooth line. It always seems to step it, although it doesn't sound too stepped, but you can, like I say, you can record the automation for any of those. If you want this a bit bigger, just double tap on it and it will fill the screen as well, which makes it a little bit easier to sort of play. And then just double tap to get it back to normal size. So that covers, hopefully, I think, all controlling the internal synths. Very, very useful. So I'm just going to quickly go through how we would control some external hardware with this. I'll just change the camera angles a bit. So you can see how I've got it set up with some hardware. Okay, I'm going to do that and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so we've swapped around a bit. What I'm going to do, just keep it simple, is I'm going to control the mini log from the iPad. I'll talk a little bit about kind of controlling multiple bits of gear as well shortly. So first thing you're going to need, obviously, assuming you've got the iPad and the Gadget app and some hardware to control, otherwise this bit's pointless. Obviously, we've got to connect the iPad to the hardware via MIDI. So first thing you're going to need is the old camera connection. Sorry, I moved away from the microphone there. What an idiot. The camera connection kit thingy. So we're going to stick that in here. And you're also going to need some sort of USB to MIDI interface. I'm using a Roland one, which is all tangled up down here, which is this one. It's called a UM1. Okay, which hopefully you can see on there. And it works really well, and it does the job, and it's not too expensive. So we plug, obviously, that end into there. And then we want the connection that says to, because this is our sort of MIDI out, which is going to go to the MIDI in on the mini log. So we want the cable that says to MIDI in, which is this one, and that's just going to go straight into the MIDI cable. So this is the normal 5-pin MIDI jack. And that's going to go straight into the MIDI in of the mini log. Okay, so we've now got the MIDI connections set up. When I now go into the settings on the MIDI thingy, I've now got an option which has now appeared, which is here, which you're not going to be able to see, but I'm not going to show you because it's too complicated to move it all. But I've now got the UM1. Okay, so that's now appeared as an output option. So I'm going to obviously select that. I've also got to make sure I'm selecting the correct MIDI channel. My mini log is set on MIDI channel 5, if I remember rightly. So I'm going to go on channel, select MIDI channel 5. And now when I'm playing on here, okay, hopefully you can hear, that is now playing the mini log. Genius. And obviously we've then got CC control over all of the mini log. We've got an extra LFO we can use on here, as well as the internal LFO on the mini log. We've got an extra arpeggiator here, and we've got an XY pad as well, which is also very, very useful. So it's really then just a case of knowing the CC numbers for your controls on the mini log. So what we'll do is we'll have a go at in fact, so let's load in, because we've got the presets on here. So if we're going to load in the mini log, and this will map our MIDI CC numbers to certain things. The only thing I don't like on the control thing here, obviously we've got our CC numbers here. It would be brilliant if you could rename those, because you've got to remember which dial is which. And when you've got 8 of them and all these other things going off, that, you know, it can be a bit of an issue. So if we could rename that to cutoff or whatever, that would be brilliant. So Korg, if you're watching, in a future update, can we have that option? So it's mapped this first one here, CC43, to, which I think is the cutoff frequency. So let's just check that. Okay, so that's doing it That's doing it on the mini log. If we do it on here, that's certainly the resonance. So we've got resonance and cut off there. And I've got no ideas what the other ones do for now, because I've not got the CC chart for the mini log, so I do need to get hold of that so I know what the other ones do. XY pad. Let's just get a different sound on here. Just one sec. Okay, I was going to go with a basic kind of initialized program. And then we've got okay, XY control and over the cutoff. So we've got cutoff on the X-axis, I think, and then resonance on the Y. So, and as soon as you let it go, it just jumps back to where it was originally. Let's try the arpeggiator. The arpeggiator, which you didn't cover earlier, we've got various different settings on it. We've got up 1, which is up 1 octave, up 2, up full, down 1, down 2, down full, up 1, sorry, up down 1, up down 2, up down full, random 1, random 2, random full and trigger. So let's listen to up full. Let's just open that up a little bit. So it's going to go up and down the full octave range, which is a bit crazy, but okay. So I mean, obviously the mini log's got an arpeggiator in there anyway, but it's another thing that we can mess about with. So all in all, very, very cool little app. So if you're wanting to control multiple pieces of hardware, you would have to have obviously an instance of the output thingy, whatever it's called, Type I. Somebody tell me how to pronounce it, please, because I ain't got a flipping clue. And it's not difficult, but anyway, right. So that's going to be our mini log. Again, it would be nice to be able to sort of name these on here somewhere. Obviously, you can name the track. Can you? Yes, we can. So we could call that mini log. Okay, so we can name them up here. So to control multiple pieces of hardware, it depends on the hardware that you're using. All the Roland gear has either MIDI through, or it lets the MIDI pass sort of through using the, rather than having a dedicated MIDI through output, you can have MIDI through going through the output. So MIDI kind of flows through all that kind of stuff, the Roland stuff. The Korg stuff doesn't, which kind of really annoys me. Because you've then got to buy MIDI interfaces and splitters, etc. So let's say, what can we see on the screen? All right, so we've got a mini log, we've got a microbrute down here. If I wanted to control both of these, I would have to have some sort of MIDI splitter or MIDI interface coming out of the mini log, because what happens is the MIDI comes from the iPad, goes into the mini log, and then that MIDI signal stops. We've got MIDI out, but that's only going to send MIDI out information from the keys when we press on here. It's not going to send any information out from the iPad. So what we would need is a sort of a MIDI splitter for this purpose. Now I have got one nestled behind here. Okay, which hopefully you can just about see that. That was about 25 quid off eBay, which works really well, and that's got 5 outputs on it. Kenton do one, although they're not the cheapest. So if you're using one of those, what you would do is you would connect the MIDI out from your iPad to the MIDI in of the splitter, and you've then got 5, you can control up to 5 pieces of hardware with that. So what will happen is the MIDI from this will just sort of pass through those and distribute itself out to the different hardware depending on what channel you are set on. So each piece of kit, each piece of hardware has to be set to a different MIDI channel. So let's say, for the sake of argument then, that I've connected the iPad to the MIDI splitter. I would take the first output of the MIDI splitter to the MIDI in of the mini log, and I would take the second output of the MIDI splitter to the MIDI in of the microbrute. My microbrute is set onto MIDI channel 8. my MIDI log is set onto MIDI channel 5. So if I want to control the microbrute, all I would do is put another instance of this in. I would choose the same output, the UM1, because obviously everything's passing through there. But what I would then need to do is just change that channel, he says, to channel 8. That would then give me control over the microbrute. So I could then sequence whatever I want to do on this track, will sequence the mini log. Whatever I do on this track, will sequence the microbrute. And obviously we can add the gadgets in there from within the app as well. So hopefully that makes sense. Really, the limit is on how much stuff you can control is down to your MIDI connections and chaining them together and being able to buy, you may need to buy obviously MIDI splitters and MIDI interfaces, etc. And because these aren't using the MIDI out things, not actually using any internal audio from the iPad, you can get a lot of those set up in a row without too much problem at all. So if you want to know a little bit more about how I connect all my other gear up and the MIDI connections, then just check those videos out. I'm going to record another one today, an update, because I've changed a few bits recently. So keep an eye out for that. And you'll see how I sort of chain all the MIDI together, which should hopefully make a bit of sense as well. Right, okay, this video is going to be really long, so I'm going to end it there. If you've got any questions or comments, then please stick them in the box below. If you like the video, please like it, subscribe, share it around, usual kind of things. If you've got any requests for future videos, for example, if you want me to do anything more on the Gadget app, I will be happy to do so. And if you like electronic music, then go and check me out on Spotify, Deezer, iTunes. I've got loads of stuff on there. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.